I call the regular meeting to order for the Waterworks and Lighting Commission for Wednesday, October 9th, 2013. I would like to welcome John Bergen, who's replacing Ellen, who's been on the commission for a very long time, 15 years and better, and all the support, which we're going to miss. But I would like to introduce John Bergen, who's filling in her vacancy. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
We will start with introductions.
John Brown, General Manager.
John Harper, Commissioner.
Joe Kazicki, Commissioner.
Tom Novak, Commissioner.
John Bergen, just barely Commissioner.
Mike Phillips, Commissioner.
Todd Weiler, Engineering Supervisor.
Joel Matthews, Office Manager.
Matt Storman, Information Systems Administrator.
Paul Seaver, Plant Supervisor.
Dale Schuman, Water Superintendent.
Chris Sawicki, MEUW, I'm the Regional Safety Coordinator.
Carol Cubsa, property owner.
Ellen Dahl.
Mike Zerflu, property owner.
Rick Burden, Encourage.
Roxanne Grotzky, secretary.
Please note that Jeff Kuhn and Kurt Pulvermacher have an excused absence. We will have the presentation to Ellen.
Hi, Ellen. I want to take this opportunity to give Ellen a commemorative plaque for her many years of service at Water and Light. And it says, an appreciation for your service and dedication to Waterworks and Lighting Commission the past 15 years. And I've been there for 5.5 of those years, and I think we've done a lot of things both to the system and to the city as well, and made a lot of improvements. And we're going to wish her well and miss her, and hope she comes back to visit us. Thank you. Did you want to say anything?
I'd like to say it's been a real pleasure to spend the time, and I'm really going to miss everybody.
Thanks, Ellen.
We will now have the reorganizational part of the meeting. The floor is open for nominations for chairperson.
I nominate John Harper for chairperson.
Are there any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Tom Novak for commission, for chairman.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, we will have a vote. Or do we need a second? Because we've got two nominations.
Need a second on each. I would-
Yeah, okay. We have two nominations, John Harper and Tom Noel. Is there a second?
I'll second the nomination for Harper.
We will have a vote then. All those
There's
in,
no second for Tom, right? So then it's,
there hasn't, unless someone wants to second it.
all right.
Okay. The nomination for chairperson was for John Harper, nominated and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will have nomination then for secretary on the commission.
I nominate Tom for
Okay. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Any other nominations for secretary? Okay. Is there a second then for?
I'll second the nomination.
Okay. A motion has been made and seconded for Tom Nowak, secretary. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll look at committees. We have Personnel Committee. Ellen was on the committee before along with Joel. So what are your wishes? We can make nominations for 2 people on a committee or 1 at a time.
Well, I would nominate you and Joe Kazicki on Personnel Committee.
Okay. Any other nominations for the Personnel Committee? Any other nominations for the Personnel Committee? Okay, we'll have a vote. All those in favor of John and Joe on the Personnel Committee? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The Finance Committee, John Harper was on the Finance Committee along with Tom. Are there any nominations for the Finance Committee?
I will nominate John for the Finance Committee.
Bergen or Harper?
Oh, no, Bergen.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Well, are there any other nominations for the Finance Committee?
I'll nominate Tom for the Finance Committee.
Okay. Any other nominations for the Finance Committee? Okay. We'll have a vote. All those in favor of John Bergen and Tom Nowak for Finance Committee? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. There's a Buildings and Ground Committee. Are there any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Mike Phillips for the Building and Grounds Committee.
Okay. Any other nominations for the Building and Grounds Committee?
How about Joe? I'll nominate Joe for the Building and Grounds
Okay.
Committee also.
Any other nominations for the Building and Grounds Committee? Okay, we'll have a vote for Mike and Joe to be on the Buildings and Ground Committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That closes all the nominations for the organization meeting. We'll go into public comment. Please keep in mind that this is a business meeting of the Waterworks and Lighting Commission and not a public hearing. Persons who wish to address the commission may do so, but should not expect to engage in discussion with commissioners or expect commission employees to answer specific questions during the public comment period. Individuals will be allowed to speak in order in which they have signed up. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual. And we have Carol that asked to speak.
I gave each of you a sheet of, it's one of 3 sheets that I got of overdue bills, in case you think I was really lucky. But anyhow, you'll see the second name on here is Elvira Daniel. That lady lives in Texas. She was here with her, I don't know if it was her ex-husband or whatever, with some of their grandkids for a while when they put it here, but she has no job, she has no income, and this should not be, and she is not on the rental agreement, anything. She should not be on the lease. Somehow there has to be a system where these people are verified. You know, their tenancy and the fact that we allow them to come in. And I can't tell you how many, I really like this format, by the way, because it does tell me whose name it's in and in a good way too.
Okay, thank you. We'll have Joel follow up with you on
You already did.
that. Okay.
Okay, Mike Zerflu would like to speak.
But this has happened a lot of times, not just this. With their kids, maybe.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to
Anything,
speak.
but they can call and verify.
What I'm asking for
A
is,
system.
the current law allows water and light utility, public-owned utilities to disconnect after a individual is 1 day past due. The law allows that. What's required is a 20-day notice to the person that's past due. The policy of water and light, though, seems to be 6 months or longer past due, in my opinion, because they know they're going to get 100% collection from the landlords. What I'm asking today is for a member of the committee to make a motion, and I'm asking for that motion to be that when a customer is 1 day past due, that they are sent a 20-day notice that they'll be disconnected. After that 20 days, they would go on a disconnect list. That's the motion that I'm asking for. I think that's very reasonable, and I'm not asking, and I think they should just be whoever name is on that list first, then disconnected. I know Water and Light's opinion or employees in conversations of the past is that that's going to be too expensive. I disagree. You can have it by law, you can have a reconnect fee I think it's gonna stop a lot of the individuals, they're gonna come in and pay, and when you disconnect them, you disconnect them. If they have the money that day, they've gotta pay it, and then you reconnect them and charge the reconnect fee. I think that's reasonable, I think that will help save landlords a extreme burden, but I think that's a very reasonable request to ask for. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Rick Merden.
Yeah, John's aware of this, but I wanted to share with the commissioner so you're all aware of what's happening here, transpired. As of last week, we applied to Constellation Energy, has a Energy to Educate grant opportunity, specifically for education in the area of renewable energy. So we have a collaboration of area school districts that we've been working together. So we put together a proposal that includes Assumption, Nakusa, Port, and Rapids high schools along with Midstate. And we had help from Kurt Pulvermacher and Focus on Energy as well to put that grant together, and that was successfully submitted last week with Midstate as the fiscal agent. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of that. And really what the grant entails is that if we were to be awarded that grant, it provides $8,000 of curriculum from Midstate in their renewable energy system for the area schools that will be configured as they need, whatever their needs are. And then also 40,000 of the 50 would be capital equipment for the high schools. And that capital equipment project, then the new Focus on Energy grant opportunity was just also released last week. So we have the potential even further than that with that opportunity. So I just wanted to make you aware of that.
That's great, thanks.
And we thank Kurt for his help too.
And good for the area.
Approval, additions, or corrections to the agenda is mailed.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda as mailed. I'll second.
There's been a motion made by Joe, seconded by Tom, to approve the minutes as mailed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval, additions, or corrections to the minutes of the regular commission meeting held September 11, 2013.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
There's been a motion made by Tom, seconded by Joe, to approve the minutes for September 11, 2013. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval, additions, corrections to the minutes for the Building and Grounds Committee held today, October 9, 2013.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion has been made by John, seconded by Tom, to approve the minutes for the Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting today. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm not aware of any action items today.
No action items today. Again, next week we'll be meeting to review the budget and may or may not act on it, so.
Okay. When would be a good time to announce the open house today?
Right now.
Okay. Kurt isn't here, but I think Joel and Kurt help organize the open house today. Joel, would you like to invite the public for that?
Sure, we've got, this is Public Power Week nationwide. It's a celebration of publicly owned power utilities. Locally, we are hosting an open house today. The public is invited out. We've got refreshments, we've got food, bucket truck rides, we've got some demonstrations, and some giveaways and some contests. So it's a great day. Come on out and enjoy it.
Okay, thank you. Business and discussion, focus on energy. Kurt isn't here.
Do you have anything, Joel? Anything new there, you know?
Nothing new.
Okay.
Great Lakes Utilities.
Great Lakes Utilities, in September, a small group of Blue members, not me being one of them, but they went over and toured the site of the wind farm that we're buying the output off of, and there were probably about half the turbines up, they said, at this point in time. So again, that's on track to deliver power to the MISO in early January. Also, at a board meeting, the Glue West capacity purchases, their agreements were finalized and approved by all the communities and the Blue Board, so that occurred. Also, a draft budget for 2014 was briefly reviewed, and we actually have a meeting next week in Rapids to go into much more detail on the budget. At this point in time, they are projecting another 2 to 3% rate reduction in wholesale energy prices. So the board will have to determine whether we take the rate reduction now or throw it into the rate stabilization account. So I'm sure that will be a lot of the discussion next week at the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Joel, you know, on the Great Lakes Utilities, the memo that you sent with your report, you know, you have about transmission expenses from ATC and MISO. What is MISO?
MISO, Midwest Independent System Operator. They run the transmission grid.
Okay.
ATC owns the Wisconsin grid, but MISO runs the regional grid.
Okay.
Okay, department updates, safety committee minutes.
I have a question on the incident on Second Avenue. What happened on Second Avenue?
We were in the process of cleaning those lines up. There was 3 abandoned lines, 3 lines that were in service. And as they were taking down the abandoned lines, which were above the ones in service, one of the lines came loose and then made contact with the ground and made contact with one of the energized lines. At that voltage, as soon as it hit the dry grass, it started a fire.
Wow.
Nothing but lawn was damaged,
A couple bushes.
a couple bushes.
Chris, you just came on board, but have you had enough time to evaluate what our status is with the safety program?
Not with the safety program. I basically, first thing I did was review what training needs we needed for the end of the year. But that is my next step.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Line superintendent report. It was good to see, Paul, that some projects got completed. Could you fill us in what the status is, where we're at with the Midwest storage?
Midwest storage is all geared up. The only thing we're waiting for is completion of CEC to plumb in the remaining conduit that joins the 2 transformers together that would complete the loop in case we ever had issues out there. We can isolate the issues and still retain power to both units.
Very good. See, after our calls, there were 3 for the storm of August 7th.
Yeah, that was kind of a misprint.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, the 3 storm of August 7th, it was actually, we had 6 incidences of trees, wind conditions and everything. There was actually 12 after our fall times, but I think there was like 16 or 18 trouble slips that were actually taken care of during that, while those 12.
Okay, all trees related and not mechanical, okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Rick?
What's the status? Did they finish, or was that just a proposal for the lighting of the Grand Avenue Bridge?
Can comment on
Well,
that.
you know, we replaced the 4 lights on the bridge itself this summer, and we actually went as far as going 2 more after that. That's all complete and all energized. That was in July.
Okay. But they're talking about some LED lighting.
That's the.
Oh, you're talking
city
about,
project, I think.
yeah, you're talking about the city project where they
Right.
want to actually do decorative
Right.
lighting that changes colors under the bridge.
Right.
I haven't heard any, I'm on that committee, but we haven't met in a while, so I'm not sure what the status of that is. The biggest problem with that was you would, if you actually install it on the piers under the bridge, you would need a special truck to maintain it. And they started looking at the cost if they would have to maintain it, and so that's kind of halted the project.
Thanks.
Yep.
Water department report.
You're working on that Pepper Avenue project. Is that water and is that also sewer?
That's a total reconstruct, water, sewer, storm sewer, everything.
Is that about 5 blocks or so?
Yeah, it goes from Sampson down to First.
Are we gonna quit ripping that street up after this? Because it seems like there's always a big hole in there.
Yeah, this will replace everything, it should be good to go. They actually plan on finishing water at the end of this week. They're gonna be doing the reconstruction part of the curbs and stuff like that.
And you had a water main break on Second Avenue. Was there any property damage?
No, we had some lawn repair they did afterward, but there was a small crack in the main that was seeping through. We had to replace, 6 feet of pipe.
Yes.
Dale, I see under trouble slips, there were 2 for low customer or low pressure customer company. Did you find out what was causing that?
On these particular cases, I believe they found out that their faucets in the house, the screens were dirty, so they weren't getting full flow out of the faucet itself, so
Okay.
kind of give them a little bit of heads up on how to clean them.
Okay, good.
Rectify the problem.
Okay.
On these disconnects that are reported here, are these, they fit the category that Mike talked about, they're after 6 months, that's standard practice?
Some, yeah, most of them, some of them are, and some are for if they have an issue in the house where they want to change plumbing or something where they have to shut the water off to do a main valve repair or something of that nature. But, yeah, some of those are disconnects for non-payment.
Our standard practice isn't to wait 6 months. So
Okay.
We'll cover that next week in a meeting or whatever, but just so you know.
On that water main work on Pepper, what's the average depth that your workers are in, may I ask?
We try to keep the water main at about 6.5 feet. Existing water main is right about that.
Okay, do you have to, I'm not used to sand for as far as digging in the ditch, I'm used to, like, do you still have to shave your sides? Do you have something to go by safety-wise?
Absolutely, the city crew is actually doing the work for us, and in this case, where it's a total street reconstruct, they actually slope the trench properly for safety-wise. If it isn't enough room to slope it like a confined area that they have to dig, they'll use a trench box and work within that trench box, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Office managers report. Joel, the 30-day and 60-day arrears increased quite a bit for September compared to August. Is that just because of the billing cycle?
Well, the 30-day, that's a good question. We looked at, September sales were high, so were August. So that's kind of an apples to apples, the 30-day arrears there. What we came up with is that people are understanding they're getting close to the moratorium. And they're more reluctant to pay. The 60 and 90 are pretty close, really. And truly, that's more of an indicator of our effectiveness. The 30-day just means they've missed one due date. And they don't fall into our collection cycle until they've missed 2. So.
Because I see here you noted that you're averaging 70 warning calls and 15 disconnects per day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Yes, Mike?
So when the moratorium's coming up, they basically milk the system is what they do, for lack of a better word.
Some will. That's, I might just add, that's why we started disconnecting water a few years ago. We never used to. But the fact of the matter is, without some kind of hammer, you don't have any leverage.
Okay.
So for about the past 3 years, we've been disconnecting a lot of water meters in the winter.
You recently attended the MEUW seminar. Would you like to share some of your experience there at the seminar?
Yeah, it was, I'm on the committee that organizes the seminar. We were really pleased with the attendance. There's 82 municipal utilities, I believe 60 to 65 were represented. Some timely issues that we addressed and good participation. It was a good conference.
Okay, good. And you also returned from the APPA Business Conference as well. Would you like to share that experience?
It's been a little bit of a whirlwind since I got back. I haven't had time to really digest everything, but I've got many pages of notes that we'll be going through.
Is this the first year you attended that conference?
This is the first time, I believe, in 3 years.
In 3 years.
Yeah, it's a good conference.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Joel?
Do we do anything to control the use of those that are slow to pay?
Control consumption, you mean?
Correct.
No, I don't know that that's legal.
Well, short of disconnecting the meter.
Yeah, I
we don't have
mean-
any, other than working with them on energy conservation, which Kurt does, both, you know, mainly from a commercial industrial level, but he does work with some residential accounts too.
Some states allow what they call service limiters, where they only allow so many amps to flow through the meter, and in certain times, but in Wisconsin, we can't use those things. We're prevented from.
Yes, Carol?
I was wondering if at the one with the municipal associations, was there anything brought up about the water and sewer bill being put on the tax roll? Anything that the group together are taking a more understanding stance, or is it still the rigid one?
I don't know if that was really discussed by the membership. There was some discussion with Public Service Commission staff. Carrie Templeton, who is a deputy administrator with the PSC, she reports right to the head of the PSC, who would have been Scott Suter, the former representative from Medford, possibly. So she is one of the senior executives at the PSC. And she had a few comments on it, but there was really no discussion. So that's kind of where it was left.
Because I think, I know I hear from my standpoint, but from other people that are tenants that are paying, they're really upset that other people are not paying. So it's a PR situation too.
Other comments? Then we'll go to Director of Finance report. Jeff isn't here. But if you have any questions, Jim will most likely be able to answer any.
Well, I know on the MEUW Business and Financial Conference, he said, Jeff said while he was there, he had the opportunity to speak to Carrie Templeton, a Deputy Administrator for the Public Service Commission. We discussed that the utility was legally required to place delinquent water bills on the tax rolls each year. She stated that yes, Wisconsin statutes do require we tax roll delinquent accounts for water service. She also mentioned the PSC does not regulate the water bill on tax roll process, but does provide guidance with the statute.
Who said that, if I can ask?
That's right in the Director of Finance's report for the month.
Thank you. I can keep it. Thank you.
Information Systems report.
Matt, I see, you have the IT trouble tickets on here now. Are you just trying to show you're catching up and there's not a problem? I know you said that for some reason the information wasn't getting back and forth last time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, make sure that you guys know that, we're getting things.
Is there,
everything's
on a
good.
monthly basis, is there usually a lot of trouble tickets at City Hall?
No, this is We just started getting people using the system, so anything
Okay.
that was outstanding already, they were submitting tickets for, which is good. 'Cause then we were able to catch up quite a bit, and so you'll see it slow down. The number
All right.
should get smaller, I would hope.
For the GIS inventory, when do you expect the field work to be done?
They're actually not scheduled to be finished until about March of next year.
Are they gonna be able to work during the winter then?
Yeah, they will. It's just, right now it's just two guys walking around with a backpack and a computer, so.
I didn't know how long of a process that was and if it's something that they can still take inventory during the winter.
Yes, it was slotted for a 12-month project.
Or was, okay.
Yeah, but after the guys are actually from southern states, the two guys that are here, so they're really trying to get it done before the snow falls.
A little incentive.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Conservation Manager's Report, Kurt isn't here, but I'm sure someone on staff can answer your questions.
Todd, Northern Steel Casting said we followed up on questions related to regulators that opened up on the transmission line by ATC at Rudolph.
Yeah, what actually happened was they saw an outage because on the ATC line in the substation at Rudolph, the regulators started on fire, and in order for them to isolate the regulators that were on fire, they actually took down the 69 kV line that goes from Wisconsin Rapids to Rudolph, which meant that Northern still saw an outage. You know, that's the incident.
And that's, there's a substation like on 16th or 17th Avenue, is that the one that goes to Rudolph?
Northern Steel Casting is the only customer we have that actually gets fed right off of the ATC lines directly, and that's because they've had problems way back in the past with the furnace dimming the lights on the entire west side of the city. And so when they saw that outage, it was an ATC outage that caused that, not a Wisconsin Rapids Water and Light outage.
We actually own most of that line in town, but then it connects outside of town. ATC owns it, and then it connects, because we bought it from Alliant, I think, didn't we?
Yeah, the line runs from the west sub, which is right behind High Street, or right on High Street, to Rudolph, but then there's a piece of line that runs down High Street and then comes across, and then goes across the expressway that feeds that transformer right by Northern Steel. So that's kind of like just a radial line that comes off of the ATC line. And we own that radial line.
The bottom line was an ATC blip.
Okay. Do we have any, we buy virtually no power from Alliant, do we?
They are selling probably, it's due to expire next year, but right now I think they're selling about 20 megs to Glue.
Okay.
They're one of the IOUs we are buying from.
Todd, what's the potential impact of this reliability standard? Will there be load drops as a probability?
Yeah, now you're talking on my report, the UFLS
Yes.
program. Yeah, now this is a federal.
Can we wait with that until we're done with the Conservation Manager's report?
I'm ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. In this report, I was wondering what the product yields at negative NPV for
Net
water
present
light.
value.
Okay. And then the other acronym for financial analysis, what is the
NRG is basically a company out of Texas that we've been talking with on potential demand programs.
Okay. Thank you.
So it's just a investor-owned utility, actually.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Kurt's report? Okay, now we'll go into the engineering supervisor report.
Since Todd spoke up, I thought I could chime right in.
That's okay. That's all right.
So just a little background on that, as everybody's aware, there's a federal committee that has regulations that utilities have to abide by. We have 33 of those regulations. Now, this is a new program, a new regulation that is going to be going into effect. It doesn't fully go into effect until March of 2016, but there's stages to it. There's one stage in March of 2014, and then one in March of 2015, and then the final one in 2016. And The whole idea of this regulation is that if we were to lose generation on the entire grid, they want all the utilities to have relaying in place that would start dropping load. So instead of the entire grid blacking out all at one time, what you would see would be just pieces of it losing power. And the idea is they're looking at the frequency on the grid, and one of the indications of you have more load than you have generation is your frequency starts dropping. And so these relays are set up to be monitoring that, and once they hit a certain frequency, then you trigger a breaker to open in the substation. Now, as part of the program, when you get to March of 2016, you have to have these relays in place and operating and drop 30% of the load in Wisconsin Rapids. And we have yet to pick which feeders in the substations will drop. But the good news is the financial impact to the utility will be very slight because we already have relays in place at the substation. So we don't have to purchase new relays and wire them into the breakers. We already have a relay in place that has these features that just haven't been put into operation yet. But once the program is in place, we will have to make a decision and say, okay, the frequency, when it drops to this amount, we need to open up these certain feeders. And the only real guidelines that you have is obviously you don't want to open up your feeder feeding your hospital, and you probably don't want to open up your police departments or your fire departments and things of that nature. But you will have to drop load that's industry load or residential load at some point. On the upside, or I don't know if it's an upside, but on the one thing to realize, if you start seeing these kind of problems, chances are the whole grid is probably going to have a big enough problem that it'll go down anyway.
So
Yeah,
the
that's a
probability
requirement
is
for-
pretty low.
Yes, the chances of this happening are very minor, very slight.
And the relays that you have in place will allow you to do this in a strategic fashion.
Yep. And then you do, as part of the program, have to show a testing and maintenance program that you're compliant with that regulation.
Yeah, it's just basically, as Todd indicated at first, it's basically just to stop from another blackout and have the utilities manually shed load through the breakers, and it's just to keep the grid at 60 hertz.
Yes, Rick?
That brings up a good question. From Waterworks and Lighting's perspective, your top customers, how big are the top customers? So in other words, is your top customer 10% of your total? You know, when you're talking about 30%?
We are very heavily loaded with smaller commercial and residential customers. We have not a whole lot of industrial load, so.
So your top customer is just a couple percent, or?
I think it's, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say Ocean Spray, 3
Our
or
biggest
4%.
one, yeah.
Yeah, 3 to 4% for
That's
Ocean
big.
Spray. Yeah,
Okay.
they're our largest.
Really? Oh, okay.
And this west substation protective relay, is this an area that affects Ocean Spray?
It actually is the entire west side of the city. And so one of the programs that we had to increase reliability was to upgrade all the relays at the substations over the last few years. This is the only location that we still have the old electromechanical style relays at it. And so we split the cost over a 3-year period to start replacing those relays. Once they're done, every relay in the entire system will be the newer style solid state relays. But yeah, that will affect the entire west side. If something were to go wrong as we're installing these, the whole west side would see an outage. So we'll be very careful.
That's a good thing.
Right, when I say, where do you get that wee stuff?
Yeah.
Any other questions for
I
Todd?
guess just another point that I would make is, I assume we alert Ocean Spray when we're doing that work, right?
We will be, because they'll probably ask us to do it on days when they're on wash-ups, so that it wouldn't affect their process.
Right.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that point where we're actually changing any wiring yet. We're still in the engineering stage of designing the panels, ordering the relays, that type of thing.
Because they do have the possibility, as you indicated, to work with it and do it when it's a low risk for
Yeah,
them.
them, Renaissance Learning is very good about that. When they're doing maintenance, they'll let us know, and other companies have come forward. The hospital also is in really good contact with us as well.
Okay, general managers report? Oh, I'm sorry.
I know, I'm quiet. I wanted to make a point here on Todd's report. We hear so darn many things negative, and it seems like positive things are very rarely brought to the front. In his report, one part, it talks about a savings of $1,386.90 per month. Also, an additional savings, $4,816 a month. And then a project they're working on, they will keep the building for a savings of $1 million. Now, that seems pretty decent to me. And I guess what I'm saying is, we sit here every month and get people bad-mouthing, we're not doing our job, we're not doing this right. And I don't know, with a savings like that, I think the people working here are doing one heck of a job.
Very good, thank you. Any other comments for Todd's report? General Manager's report. Okay, we'll go on to any correspondence.
Do you have any, Roxanne?
No, I wasn't aware of it. Okay. Review of accounts payable.
Bell Lumber and Pole inventory. Is that purchased a number of times during the year, or is that a one-year purchase for a pole inventory?
Well, it depends on usage and project usage, but we typically try to go out in January to buy what we're gonna need for our projects of that year, but in this particular case, we ran low, so we went ahead and ordered some more.
Was that partially due because of the 73 highway job?
Actually, we had poles in place or in stock for that, but we had several jobs, outstanding jobs, things for the city where we had to do some pole moves and everything like that, where obviously our stock kind of dwindled and the poles that were set aside for that project were used elsewhere. Pole breaks, car vehicles, trees, storms, all kind of depleted the stock. So.
Thank you.
On page 10, towards the bottom, there was an expense of $2,500 for making distilled water. Is that for the new water treatment plant, or is that for the water bottle?
That's part of the lab.
Is that the lab?
Page 10.
That's the lab equipment that, we had a piece of equipment in the lab up in the filter plant that broke. It was at its life, way beyond its life expectancy. We looked at buying the parts we would have needed to fix it, and it was cheaper to buy a brand new one.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I got a question on page 2, right up there near the top. No big deal, but they got safety glasses 3 times. How many safety glasses?
Are those different styles?
Well, I was gonna say Roxanne probably knows the answer to this, but I think this is where the employees can buy prescription safety glasses. And that's what those are.
Okay.
Based on the vendor, I think you're right.
Correct.
I know we were required in some state jobs years, we had to have prescription ones,
Right.
but we had to pay for them too.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Other business, I just wanted to ask the commissioners if they had a chance to review the 2013 APPA Customer Service Policy Survey that Joel shared with us. If you had a chance to review it, if you had any questions or comments on it. This was handed out at last meetings. I just wanted to follow up if anyone had any questions. Okay.
Just in other business, just to make the commissioners aware, I've been drafted to speak again later this month at the Wisconsin Public Utility Institute, which is a jointly owned organization between the University of Wisconsin and the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners. That's a mouthful. But I've been avoiding it for several years, and they've finally pressured me to come down and speak. Mace Bailey will be on 2 sessions, one on the municipal model of delivering electricity, and then the other session will be on all the projects that we've completed and the technology upgrades and what have you. Well, they want to hear about it, so. That's it.
Okay, any other business? Okay, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made by Joel and seconded by Mike to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.